What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show. As always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. Also know I'm a certified empowerment coach, president and CEO of Express Your Vibe Coaching and Communications. And we have another great friend of the Dr. Vibe show on tonight. Hasn't been on for a while, but that doesn't mean he has been sitting around. Even though he's sitting now, he don't sit much. He's always on the move. We have friend of the show, friend of the Dr. Vibe show, Coach Michael Taylor. He's an entrepreneur, author, motivational speaker, and radio show host who has dedicated his life to empowering men and women to reach their full potential. He knows firsthand how to overcome adversity and build a rewarding and fulfilling life, and he is sharing his knowledge and wisdom with others to support them in creating the life of their dreams. Now, isn't that a mission statement? That's a serious mission statement. So tonight, from Texas, lounging, yeah, right, lounging, Coach Taylor is going to talk about his somewhat released book, and we'll get to that, Shattering Black Male Stereotypes, Eradicating the 10 Most Destructive Media-Generated Illusions About Black Men. Would love everyone who's watching live to contribute to the conversation tonight with Coach Taylor. If he can't answer your questions, I'll try to answer them, but he's the star of the show. I'm just in the background. But Coach Taylor, welcome back to the Dr. Vibe show. How you been?
Well, Dr. Vibe, it is always a pleasure. And let me begin by saying I'm so excited and proud to see you continuing your journey, because you and I, back in the day, you know, we're just getting started.
Yes.
And so I'm really glad to see how your vision has manifested and how you're really reaching a larger audience, and you and I are working hand in hand and empowering people. So let me just first acknowledge you, Dr. Vibe, for the work that you're doing, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to share your platform tonight.
Well, it's not my platform, it's our platform, and the mic and the camera is always open whenever you want to come on the Dr. Vibe show. It's been a while since you've been on, so there's probably some new viewers watching live on the replay that don't know about you. So can you share a little background about yourself?
Well, let's start on a personal level real quick.
Yep.
Because, you know, I talk a lot about empowering people to live extraordinary lives. And I am not aware of a lot of resources targeted specifically to men of color talking about empowering them to live extraordinary lives. And so the reason that I'm doing this is because I absolutely believe that it's possible for us to do just that, to live extraordinary lives. So what I have done is I've made it my life's work to share the information and the lessons that I've learned over the last 20, 25 years with others to support and empower them. And I actually sort of got into this by accident. Actually, I don't believe in accidents, but this is how Michael Taylor got started in writing and speaking, because I had lived the so-called American dream, and this was at the age of 22, and by the age of 28, 29, that dream turned into a nightmare as I went through a divorce, a bankruptcy, a foreclosure, basically lost everything, and so I had to completely rebuild my life. And so over the last 20, 25 years, that's exactly what I've been doing, is just rebuilding my life. And so what I did was I took all the adversity that I went through and took the lessons that I learned, and I started sharing them through my books, through my writing, through my speaking, through workshops, with a simple intention, and that is to empower others to live extraordinary lives. So here I am some 20, 25 years later after going through all those adversities, and I've been happily married for the past 17 years. I've written 6 books. Again, I have a radio show. I've done a television show. So I'm living my version of an extraordinary life, and I'm committed to empowering people to create their own version of an extraordinary life. And so in a nutshell, I'm Coach Michael Taylor, author, motivational speaker, radio and TV show host, who considers himself to be an irrepressible optimist with a passion for the impossible. And that's what I live for.
Absolutely. Let me ask, during your journey, when did you realize that you had the capacity and the vision to lead an extraordinary life? Because you shared with us that it wasn't always extraordinary.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was the complete opposite. And, you know, during the darkest period of my life, I received a miracle. I was sitting up late one night because I couldn't sleep because I was so depressed. And as I was sitting there, I was sitting on the edge of my bed. And as I looked across the room, I noticed that all the books on my bookshelf had something to do with making money. And as I looked at those books, this question just popped in my head. And the question was this: Michael, what if you took all the energy and effort you've used in trying to get rich and simply learn how to be happy? And it was that one simple question that literally changed my life in an instant. Something in me shifted.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
It's interesting you saying that, because a lot of people equate rich and happy. But it sounds like you found another vision of rich that did not involve necessarily monetary in regards to happiness. If I'm correct, can you expound on that?
Yeah, because here's the thing. As I sat there, and again, I'm in a really dark, depressed state, and I realized that I hadn't felt happy in a long time. Now, I remembered what happiness felt like. You know, being a kid, I was a pretty happy-go-lucky kind of guy, and I remember just feeling real passionate and alive, and I had lost that feeling. And so what I realized that even though I had the successes, the house, the wife, the 2.5 kids, and all of that, I really wasn't happy. I truthfully was not happy. Now, in my mind, I thought I was happy because I was following society's standards of what happiness looked like. You know, having all the stuff, all the external things. But it wasn't until I lost everything and went on this journey that I discovered that there is absolutely nothing outside of me that could really make me happy. I have to be willing to look within myself to find happiness. And I believe that's the only place you'll find happiness. Now, most of us think, again, if we have the stuff, the external things, it'll make us happy. Unfortunately, it never does. It may provide us with some temporary pleasure, but it's not true happiness, because happiness isn't contingent upon anything except happiness. You can be happy and have absolutely nothing. And I experienced that. One of the happiest moments of my life was when I had absolutely nothing. I was living in a one-room efficiency apartment. I didn't have the money to turn the lights on yet. It's August. I'm in Houston. It's a freaking oven. It is hot as you can imagine. And I was sitting up one night counting my blessings that I at least had a roof over my head, because I had been homeless for 2 years. Had lived in my car for 2 years. So to me, just having a roof over my head was a blessing. And I was so happy to have my own place and not be in my car, that despite not having electricity on, having no furniture in the apartment, the only thing I had in the apartment was an air mattress. And so, but in that moment, I was happier then than I had ever been in my life. And it was a result of this amazing journey that I had gone on, which, you know, talk a little bit about it in the book, but it's really about going on that inner journey to discover who we really are. And that, to me, is the key to an extraordinary life. First and foremost, we must know who we are. And when we get to that point, then we build on top of that.
When did coaching become part of your journey?
Well, actually, that's pretty recent.
Okay.
Because I started writing back in 1995. And one of the things that I really struggled with at the beginning is what some people call the imposter syndrome. You ever hear that? The imposter syndrome. It's where you have this message you want to share with the world, but there's a part of you that doesn't think you're really qualified because you don't have the titles, you don't have the degrees, and it's difficult to accept that you have a message to share with the world because you don't have the titles and labels. Well, I actually struggled with that for a while. Even though I had written a couple of books and had done radio, there was a part of me that struggled because I don't like the term expert. I've always struggled with that term, expert. And there's a guy by the name of Brendan Burchard, and he gave the best definition of expert I've ever heard. He said, an expert is simply someone who does the 3 R's. research, report, and create results. He said, if you research, report, and create results, you're an expert. And when I heard that definition, I realized that I'm an expert from that definition. And then probably 6 or 7 years ago, that's when coaching sort of took off. And I realized that that's what I really do. I coach people, although I don't do individual coaching anymore, but I coach people to reach their full potential by researching, reporting, and creating results in their lives through my books, my programs, my classes, and my speaking engagements.
Excellent. There is so much more that we could talk about or share, have Michael share about his past, but you know what? Go to some of his previous conversation on the Dr. Vibe Show and you'll catch some of that. Tonight, we're focusing on the book. So let's get right down to the book. How did you come with the title?
You know, I've been speaking and writing about men's issues for about, let's see, 12 years. And believe it or not, the majority of people that have read my works, come to my workshops and seminars, aren't black men. And so when I started this conversation, it was really about redefining masculinity and what it meant to be a man in today's ever-changing world. And so what I recognized is that there were very few men of color who were listening and reading my books and so forth, but I knew that as a man who happens to be black, I had a responsibility to reach out to men who look like me. That's just something I felt inside. I just felt that responsibility. And so when I decided that I wanted to target specifically men of color, as you know, I wrote a book called Black Men Rock, 10 Keys to Empower Black Men to Live Extraordinary Lives. Hence the t-shirt, Black Men Rock.
And I'm not, by the way, I'm not wearing the hat tonight, but I still have the hat.
Still have the hat. And so recently I was in a meditation and I said, you know, I want to write another book to follow up to Black Men Rock. And I said, you know, there are so many stereotypes about black men out there. I said, you know, I think I want to write about that. And during my meditation, the title just popped in my head. It says, well, Michael, guess what? You're the type of person that's actually shattering all the stereotypes because, number one, you're successful, you're a great husband, you're a great father, you're a joyful guy. You're shattering all the negative media stereotypes, so why not write about that? And I went, that's a good idea. And hence the title, Shattering Black Male Stereotypes, was born. But what I recognize, Dr. Vibe, is that there are actually these 10 negative media-generated illusions that we as black men get trapped in. We're unconscious of it. We don't recognize it. But as long as we're operating out of that illusion, we will never truly and fully succeed. And so what I've discovered is these 10 illusions is really what keeps us from succeeding. And when we wake up from these illusions and don't act consistent with them, then we become the masters of our own destiny. And so that's what the book is about. It's the 10 illusions that the media has perpetuated for an extremely long time. And it's an opportunity for men of color to recognize these illusions, make sure they're not acting consistent with them, and live what I'd call an extraordinary life.
It's interesting. One of my longtime online cohorts, a gentleman named Victory Unlimited, periodically talks about the illusion of inclusion. So whenever you say, that illusion, that term comes up, were there more than 10 and you nailed it down to 10, or were there 10 that you thought up first? How did you come in the process of just making it 10?
Well, actually, there were about that I concluded there were about 17.
Okay.
And then 10, I like working with the number 10 for some reason, but I thought these were the most destructive. These were the 10 I thought that really, shall I say, held black men back. And so I wanted to consolidate it and make sure that I got to the essence of the message, which were the 10 most destructive. And that's why I chose 10.
Excellent. So when you came up with this idea, how long was it from I'm going to write this book Actually, let's go through the process. So what was the process involved in writing this book?
Well, let me lay out some things that I believe. First and foremost, I don't believe that creativity has anything to do with the brain. I don't think it has anything to do with this mass in our heads that we call the brain. I believe that creativity comes from the source. The source goes by many different names. Some people call it God. You can call it whatever you want. But I believe there's a source that we have access to. And when we connect to the source, this source energy, if you will, pours creativity through us. And it comes through our heart. So when we get into alignment, when we create intimacy and connection with this source, then we simply become vessels that the source pours through. So when you look at artists, any type of artist, and they have these gifts, be it writing, be it singing, be it creating anything, I believe it comes from the heart. And so for me, I'm a huge proponent of meditation, and I've been meditating for more than 20 years. And so whenever I write a book, one of the things that I do is I go into a meditative state and I just listen. I start listening to the words of what I choose to call my higher self, which I believe is the source. So whenever I'm getting ready to write, books actually is the term I use is emergence. It comes from inside of me and pours out of me. So when I come up with an idea, what I'll do is I have my phone, and as soon as I come up with an idea and a title for a book, I just start listening. And little ideas start popping up, and then I always take notes on my phone. You know, I say, oh, that would make a good chapter. Boom, 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 boom. I write a little note. So I take these little notes, and I usually focus on 10. Again, 10 is just a magic number for me. And so once I get 10 ideas, now I've got the foundation for the book. And then what I'll do is I will set aside a certain amount of time, and I will commit to writing. And I commit to 8-hour days. And so what I'll do is I'll usually take some time off, and I'll say, on this particular time, I'm going to focus solely on writing this book. And this is the miracle of creativity. Because when I get into that meditative state and I connect to my higher source, what happens is the book literally pours through me. And Shattering Black Male Stereotypes, I wrote the entire book in 9 days.
Wow. Epic. Wow.
9 days. I mean, and that's start to finish. 9 days. 9 8-hour days, complete book. Now, here's the amazing thing about this, Dr. Vibe. My first book I wrote back in 1995, I wrote in 90 days. My second book in 2011, I wrote in 32 days, which was A New Conversation with Men. My third book, which is Black Men Rock, I wrote in 8 days. My fourth book, which is a book called Adversity is Your Greatest Ally, I wrote in 12 days. My fifth book, which is Lessons from a Gathering of Men, I wrote in 11 days. And Shattering Black Male Stereotypes, I wrote in 9 days. And so what this is, I believe, is that the source, as I understand it, literally uses me as a vehicle or vessel to express itself. So from my perspective, how I see myself as a human being is that I am a divine manifestation of the infinite intelligence that created this universe. And this infinite intelligence simply pours through me, if you will, and that's how I write.
Okay, fine. I had something in my mind. Oh, I want to revert back. You'd said that a lot of times when you do your coaching or you share with the audience, there isn't a lot of black men in the audience. Why do you feel that is?
Most of it is cultural conditioning. You see, we live in a culture that, in a simplified way of looking at it, cultures create beliefs. So whatever culture you're brought in, you're given a set of beliefs that you buy into. And that's how we start accepting illusions. Within the black community, I think what has happened is we have relied on religion as our source. Whenever we were experiencing any difficulty or challenge, we always turn to religion. And so I think that's a cultural thing. And so there are still a lot of us who are uncomfortable thinking outside of the religious box. So therefore, there are less of us that are open-minded to what I would call human potential movements, which is basically saying, as a human being, I have an infinite capacity for learning, for growing, for expanding. Because we get trapped in that box that, unfortunately, some of us have a conversation that that's what white people do. As a matter of fact, in my very first book, the very first chapter I wrote was titled, the "That's What White People Do" mentality. So what happens is we get trapped in this mentality that black people aren't doing certain things because that's what white people do. And I think that's why there's a lot of hesitancy for us to participate in these types of programs. And so what I have come to recognize is, because I remember, back in '95 when we didn't really have the internet and all of this, and, I would go to these workshops and these seminars, and 95% of the time, I was the only person of color in the group. And it wasn't that I was trying to assimilate into white culture. I was just there to learn. I've always been a sponge for knowledge, okay? And so I would go to these seminars and these workshops because I wanted to be happy again, as I mentioned earlier. And no matter what it took, that's what I was committed to. And so I would go to these things and I was growing and changing and transforming from the inside out. And I was getting happy, and that was all that was important to me. But what I have come to recognize, Dr. Vibe, and this is the beauty in purpose, when we find our true purpose, is that as a result of that 20-year journey that I was on, in most cases being the only man of color, the universe, or source, as I understand, says, look, the reason that I've guided you through these things is because now you got to take the message to people who look like you. It's your responsibility to now share what you've learned with others to support and empower them. And so that's what I do.
Excellent. Excellent. You make a dangerous statement in your introduction. I don't know if you remember it, but I'm going to share it with the audience. Oh, yeah. Do you remember it? If not, I will share it with the audience.
Are you referring to the one that says you can create anything you want in life or whatever that? Yeah. Yeah, the point is that if you're watching this video right now, you have everything you need right now to live an extraordinary life. Whether you will admit that and accept that or not, I am absolutely convinced if you're watching this right now, you already have everything you need inside of you. The question becomes, are you willing to tap into that part of yourself that can support you and empower you to do that?
Excellent. Now, the book is 10 chapters, and if I understand correctly, you have a different person, a different, I would say, black male thought leader, give their input to each one of the chapters. What process did you use to select the black men to contribute to this work?
Yeah, so let's kind of back up a little bit because you're talking about the summit now. So we've got an upcoming summit. Yeah, we've got an upcoming summit called the Shattering Black Male Stereotypes Empowerment Summit, and it's a 14-day summit. You sign up for it. Initially, it's free. Sign up for it. Go to the website, ShatteringBlackMaleStereotypes.com, and for 14 days, you're going to be empowered and inspired to wake up from the illusions. Because what I have are 12 amazing men, and they're all men of color who are involved in the personal growth and development field. And each one of them brings a specific area of expertise to the actual illusion that I'm talking about in the book.
Right. And
so most of the men on the panel are actually close friends of mine who we've been working together for years. There are several of them that I don't know personally, but I follow their work online. So I contacted them and told them what we were putting together, and they jumped on and said, yeah, man, we want to be a part of that. So the whole intention is to, as you're reading the book, you know, when you read, which is great, obviously, you use a part of your brain which is more analytical. But when you participate in the summit, it becomes more experiential. And so when you're watching a video and you're engaged in the conversation live, it touches you differently. And so what I wanted to do was bring men on that could share some wisdom in each of these illusions, and that's what we've done. We've put together 12 great men who, again, based on my own experience and my own research, can speak directly to the particular illusion that we're talking about.
Excellent. And we'll make sure before we exit this epic conversation that Coach Michael gives the details on that again. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through high level each one of the chapters. We'll have a conversation about it. But at the end of the day, folks, buy the book, because that's what's going to really do it for you, and also enroll in the summit. So let's get started with the first illusion. And why did you pick this one as number 1? Black men are an endangered species.
Because I think it's the most destructive. And here's why. Back in 1995, Dr. Vibe, I was in a restaurant. And there were these two apparently well-educated, well-dressed professional black men. And they were having a conversation. And in their conversation, they were talking about the eradication of black men from society. They were having a conversation that, in their opinion, black men were not going to be around in 20 years. And so as I listened to their conversation, I said, man, I didn't want to interrupt them, but something told me I just need to go to their table. So I walked over to their table, and I apologized for eavesdropping on their conversation. And I said, guys, look, I'm sorry for eavesdropping on your conversation, but please tell me you don't believe that black men are going to be eradicated from this country. And one of the brothers looked up at me, Dr. Vibe, and he had this look of hopelessness in his face. And he held such a strong conviction that it literally broke my heart. And he said this. He said, yeah, man, I do believe that. He says, man, don't you watch the news? He said, in 20 years, black men are going to be dead or in jail. And again, it broke my heart. I was just, and I knew there was really nothing I could say that would have changed their mind. So I just reached over, tapped him on the shoulder, and I said, brother, don't believe the hype. I said, black men are doing a lot better than you obviously are aware of. And trust me, we are not on the verge of extinction. And it was that conversation that challenged me to write my very first book. Because I wanted to change the minds of black men. And that's when I wrote Brothers Are You Listening, as a result of that conversation. Because after that conversation, I made up my mind that I was going to do something. I didn't know what I was going to do, but after that conversation, I said, I got to do something. And fortunately, I was guided to recognize that what I was supposed to do was to start writing. Because I never dreamed of being a writer. I'm now in my 30s when I first started. I was in my 30s when I first started writing. I had no experience writing books, didn't know anything about writing, but I was willing to learn. And so that conversation is what really propelled me to become such an advocate for black men, for men of color.
Well, I have a conversation piece I can ask now.
I don't hear you. I don't hear you.
Nope, sorry. I have a conversation piece I could ask now or later. So, you know what? Let me do it now, because who knows? There'll be so much knowledge bombs dropping, I may forget it. From the time that those gentlemen had that conversation to now, what is the state, in your opinion, of black men as a species as we speak here live on December 12th, 2017?
Well, see, my perception and my viewpoint is completely opposite of what the media will tell you. I believe that black men are positioned to experience unprecedented levels of success in society today. I don't buy into the negative media, especially when it comes to black men. And if you really look at our society, there is no segment of society that doesn't have black male presence. Every segment of society, we have black men. So that's one of the reasons why I'm so optimistic. But even more so than that, I happen to believe in evolution. I also believe in what I call spiritual evolution. This intelligence that I keep speaking of, this divine intelligence, this source, I believe it knows exactly what it's doing. And evolution that's occurring is, as human beings, we aren't evolving physically. We've pretty much got to that point where we're not evolving, but we're evolving in consciousness. We're waking up as a species, I believe. And so when I look at black men, I'm so optimistic I can barely contain myself. Because I just think that, again, as a human being, we have an infinite capacity for learning. We have the power to do, to be, to have anything we set our minds to. But it begins there. It begins with the mindset. And so, once again, I am extremely optimistic for black men and for all men, for the world at large. Again, I don't buy into all the negative stuff you see in the media because it is my belief that, and this gets a little philosophical, but there are some philosophers that say, as a human being, we can only perceive 4% of reality. So think about that. We can only perceive 4% of reality. What about the other 96%? Well, for those of us who are willing to look a little deeper and expand what we see, it gives us a different perspective of the world. And so I continually expand what I see. And I don't do that by watching television. I do that by researching and reading and engaging in conversations with people that think like I do. And that's how I continue to expand.
It's interesting, before we move on to the next illusion, I was at an event a few weeks ago and there was a gentleman who says he doesn't watch the television. So
yeah, that's exactly what it is.
So there you go. So just building on what you just shared with us. So let's move on to the second illusion about black men use race as an excuse for failure. Now, people may push back on you on this one, so I want to hear what you have to say.
Oh, yeah. You know, I heard, and this was a few weeks ago, and as a result of the Colin Kaepernick protest and so forth, I heard a white reporter or talking head say something to the effect of, if we don't like it here, why don't we leave? Something to that effect. And I got to thinking about that, and I said, you know, it's amazing how certain groups of people don't acknowledge that this is our country too. We have as much right as anyone else to America. This is our country. And some people will push back on that too, Dr. Vibe. But that's how I see it. America is my country, okay? I have as much right to it as any other group of people. And so what I hear some people say is that if we bring up race, we're always playing the race card. You know, we get that pushback a lot, especially from white reporters and stuff like that. Because if we talk about police brutality, if we talk about racism and things like that, it's like, oh, there you go again, bringing up race. Well, the fact is, race still matters. It's still an issue. That's very, very obvious. And so there's a lot of people that have the mentality that as men of color, if we are succeeding, we're blaming society. Now, obviously, there will probably be some people that would do that, but I believe the majority of us don't. The majority of us take full responsibility for our lives. We recognize the challenges that we're faced with, and yet we're still achieving despite all the obstacles that are put in front of us. The key, though, is for us as men of color to make sure that we aren't using race as an excuse for failure. And that's the whole intention of that chapter, to challenge black men to ask themselves, are you not succeeding because you have this thing in your head that you can't? Because they are holding you back?
Okay,
that's the whole point.
Okay, so Coach T, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Black men will say the people in power are white. So how am I going to, if I want to aspire to something that I have to get approval from people who do not look like me, who don't understand my journey, etc.?
Well, see, once again, then you're putting responsibility on someone or something outside of yourself. What I'm advocating here is that as a human being, you have the power, the ability, the capacity to do anything you set your mind to. And if you think they, whoever they are keeping or holding you back, then that's a belief system that's going to keep you stuck. That's going to keep you from succeeding, because in your mind you've already made up that you can't succeed because they won't let you. So let me take my life as an example. How is it possible for a man of color, no education, well actually 11th grade education, high school dropout, divorce, bankruptcy, foreclosure, depression. I personally have interacted and been assaulted by people from the Ku Klux Klan. First-hand experience with people from the Ku Klux Klan. I know what it's like to deal with racism and discrimination. And yet, here I am living my version of an extraordinary life. How is that possible? It's possible because I had a mindset that says I can create anything my heart desires. That's the mindset that I have, and that's what I'm promoting.
Would you suggest a number of black men need to start controlling their own narrative?
That's the whole point of the book, to give men tools to support them in doing that.
Excellent. All right. Next conversation piece. Another interesting, a good topic. Black men try to be white.
If I had a nickel for every time someone black accused me of trying to be white, I'd probably be rich by now. I'd probably be rich by now. All of my life, I have dealt with this accusation that I'm a sellout if I do something that quote unquote isn't black. When I was in high school, I used to surf. Well, how many black surfers do you know? When I was in high school, I used to ride skateboards. I won trophies riding skateboards because I loved riding skateboards. Did that mean I was trying to be white? No, I simply loved skateboarding. I simply loved surfing. The point here is that there was a time when we did not have access to certain things. Today, we have access to anything we want if we're willing to work for it. So from my perspective, who defines what it means to be black? What does that really mean? So for me, I am a man who happens to be black. Therefore, I'm a man first who happens to be a certain ethnicity. But my skin color doesn't dictate what I can accomplish. So what I do, I trust my own heart. I trust my own mind. And I listen to that, and I let my heart and soul guide me. I don't set things up so that I only do, quote unquote, what black people do, because I can't define what all black people do. I can only define what I do. But there's this idea that still perpetuates our culture, is that certain things are what only white people do. For example, become billionaires. I have a goal. I have a dream. I want to be a billionaire. Does that mean I'm trying to be white? Or does that mean I simply want to build a corporation that accomplishes a certain goal, which is $1 billion status? Had nothing to do with color. It's all about vision. So what I'm saying is, as a man who happens to be black, if you're trapped in this idea that you can't do certain things, or you're afraid to do certain things because you're afraid of being labeled a sellout, the person you're really selling out is yourself.
Okay, excellent. That is a very difficult one for a lot of men of color to shake.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because the cultural conditioning is so strong. And that's why it's important to have networks of people that support and empower you to have this type of mindset. Because what I recognize is that I am in the minority. There aren't a lot of men of color who think like I do, but guess what? Everything starts in mind. Everything starts with thought. That's where it all starts. You want to change your life, you got to change your mind. You know, the good book says, be ye not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by what? The renewing of your mind. And that's what I set out to do. Help men renew their minds so that they now become more open-minded and open to more possibilities.
True. I would just add there something I say a lot of times. If your life's a mess, it's because your mind's a mess.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there we go.
Absolutely.
There we go. So next conversation piece. Black men are less intelligent.
Ooh, yeah.
Have you encountered that in a lot of black men feeling that they don't feel that they're intelligent? I know you put it as a chapter, but there must be a reason why this was one of the chapters, illusions.
Well, and the reason being is because since black people were brought to this country, we have been conditioned to believe that that's true. There are still organizations out there that try to prove that black people genetically are inferior to white people. Today, 2017, some people still believe that. Unfortunately, some of us have accepted that. So the intention was to let men of color recognize that that just isn't true. We are just as intelligent as any other group of people. We have an infinite capacity for learning. There's no limit to how much we can learn. What we don't see in mainstream media is the black men that are showcasing just how brilliant we really are. So it is our responsibility to make sure that we are surrounding ourselves with brilliance, that we are learning from the brilliant minds that we have, and not buy into that illusion that we are less intelligent.
I think in this one, it's for a number of black men, they're believing the KoolAid. They're believing the hype, and I think with many of the illusions too, I think some of the greatest challenges within the black environment itself, that they've come to accept these things, and they just accept them as self-fulfilling prophecies that I'm not any better, so I'm not going to be any better.
But see, here's the problem with illusions. They appear to be real, but they aren't. And unfortunately, most men aren't even conscious that they hold these beliefs. And so that's why in my workshops and in my books, I'm simply challenging men to start questioning, asking themselves deeper questions about how they think, what they believe, how they act. Because at the core of who we are, I believe, is infinite intelligence. We have access to this infinite intelligence. It is our responsibility to tap into it. And so, there's a stereotype when we talk about, being less intelligent, that, I don't know, you've probably heard this, that if you want to keep something from a black man, put it in a book.
Yeah. Or another dangerous thing is when two black men are together with a book, some people think a riot's going to start.
Yeah. So those are the types of unconscious beliefs that we hold on to that it is our responsibility to wake up from. And that's why I put it in that chapter.
Excellent. Another one, again, this is very prevalent in media. Black men are angry and violent.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing how, if you look at the media, when black people protest, you hear things like thugs, riots, violence. When white people protest, you hear, oh, they're a little rowdy. Oh, they're undisciplined. They're just acting out. So, same actions, but look how the media portrays it. We've been portrayed as more angry and violent, and the illusion is that our society says that we somehow as a group has a greater propensity towards violence, when the truth is there's no scientific evidence to support that. Race has nothing to do with violence. Violence is the result of the emotion of anger. All human beings have the same emotions. So when someone is acting out violently, it's a result of an emotion. Black men have the same emotions as any other group. But the problem is the media thrives on negativity and sensationalism. That's what brings them viewers. That's what makes them money. So the way they frame it is that we are always the bad guy. We're the violent, angry black people out there tearing up stuff. When in reality, it's a very small minority of us that may do those things. But the truth is, they do the same thing. It's just how they report it looks different to them than to us.
And some people would say black people do have case to be angry and violent.
Well, we definitely have the case to be angry, that's for sure.
There's definitely that. What part of this illusion is attached to the whole area of mass incarceration?
Well, again, if you look at when you think about mass incarceration, I really believe. Did you see the documentary 13?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you remember how she broke it all down, how the whole system is set up. It's amazing how most people don't recognize the unfair justice system that's actually driving mass incarceration. So what it looks like through the media is that, oh, these are just thugs and these black men are they're just criminals. But if we look a little deeper, we'll see what's really driving that. It's an unfair justice system that unfairly incarcerates men of color for lesser offenses. I don't know if you saw the story of the judge that was actually put in prison because he was literally selling black men to prisons.
Yeah.
So there's this culture that has perpetuated this idea that the reason we make up more of the prisons is because it's something genetic in us. It never has been. It's a system. And the system has always been stacked against us. But what I talk about in the book is the reason that I'm so optimistic is now that we have more attorneys and judges and we can get better representation and we've got DNA evidence now that's breaking all this down and we're seeing people get freed as a result of the right representation and the right science behind it. So these are reasons for optimism, I believe, because they say that, you know, since we were brought to this country, you know, we go to court and our peers who didn't look like us were making decisions, right? Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out if you've got a jury full of white people and you got a black person on trial, okay? Do you really think that's going to be fair representation? No. It's human nature. You're going to be biased to some degree. So what we have to be willing to do is, as people of color, make sure we're part of the system. Make sure that we're registered to vote so we can be on the jury. Make sure that we are attorneys and we have the expertise to make sure that we aren't being incarcerated unfairly. Those are the things that's going to change it. And so that's why I'm empowering people of color to make sure that we're part of the problem or the solution, not the problem.
Okay. Next solution we have: black men cannot be monogamous.
Oh yeah. Now that's, you know, remember back in the 70s when the blaxploitation movies came out?
Yep.
And, you know, we were pimps and thugs and, you know, it was like, that was the thing, you know, Superfly. Actually, you know, my nickname in junior high was Superfly.
Oh, my. Okay.
I had name tags. You know, that was my thing. Now, I'm like 13 when the movie came out. I didn't even know who Superfly was, but I just thought that was the coolest name. Oh, man, I'm Superfly. And the song, you know, the song was cool and everything. But see, what happened is society thought that they were showcasing urban culture. That was their justification for the blaxploitation films. Oh, this is urban culture. But all they were doing was perpetuating negative stereotypes. That black men didn't know what it meant to be intimate and to create emotional and psychological and spiritual relationships. You know, and then if you look at what happened with rap music and the objectification of women and how the, you know, some of the stereotypes is that as a man, my job is to be a player and not be attached and to love someone and be open and honest about how I feel about a woman. See, all of this was perpetuated through our media, and a lot of us bought into it. Truth of the matter is, we are definitely capable of loving, intimate, monogamous relationships. As a matter of fact, I would assert that most men, regardless of color, but especially men of color, want to create these types of relationships, unfortunately, don't have the emotional tools to do so. And that's why I'm having this conversation. I got an amazing brother on the panel who his name is Freddie Weaver, and he runs a program called the Tantra Nova Institute. Powerful brother. Breaks down the whole connection between spiritual and emotional connection and great sex. Oh, it's powerful. You got to check it out. Really, really good guy. Freddie Weaver is his name.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that black men, and again, that portrayal by the media is so interesting. And but when now we're living in a culture these days, so many prominent white men are being called out.
Oh yeah,
on their sexuality. Like, and there have been one or two prominent black men, one Russell Simmons, and I guess the Senator John Conyers is his name, I think, from Mississippi.
Right.
But the large majority of these accusations are being pointed to men who are not of color.
Right. And so, this whole sexual harassment thing that's so, perpetuating the media right now, I believe, again, I'm an optimist, that it is the breaking down of patriarchy. It is the breaking down of an antiquated masculine paradigm that no longer works. And so when we see these stories and people act surprised, like, oh, I can't believe that this has been going on since the beginning of time. And so what we have to be willing to do, especially as men of color, is to recognize that we have the capacity to create intimacy and connection. And that has nothing to do with our skin color, nothing to do with our ethnicity. It has everything to do with our willingness to open our hearts and to connect with another human being. And so the media would have you believe, for example, when you think about domestic violence, okay, people think about athletes, and unfortunately a lot of times it's a black male athlete that really, they showcase domestic violence stories with black men, when the reality is domestic violence as a whole, there are a lot more white men that commit domestic violence than black men, by far. But we're the face of it. Why? Because that's what the media puts out there. Once again, it's saying we're the violent ones, which is not true.
Okay. Next illusion, black men are deadbeat dads.
Ooh, yeah, this is my favorite one. One of my favorites, because as a father of 3 grown children who absolutely loves and adores his children, I'm a prime example of what a father can be. Every black man has the capacity to be a great dad, but he's got to be willing to put forth the effort to do so. And the CDC did an amazing study which showcased that, and this is the CDC, Center for Disease Control, that black men actually participate more in their children's lives than men of other races. Now, they will point to statistics about black men not being in the household. That's their fallback, saying that we're bad dads. But the truth is, black men are as involved, and in a lot of cases, more involved with their children than men of other races. But most people don't acknowledge that and don't know that, because the media would have you believe we're the deadbeat dads. And I don't know if you saw that Oprah was about to do a reality show with the guy that had 34 kids or something, about 18 different women, and people were so outraged that they canceled the show. Well, my God, see, that would have been the worst thing to do, because what would it have done? Perpetuated that stereotype that we aren't great dads. So I was so glad to see that they canceled that show, because that's not who we are.
But it's interesting that the network was thinking about.
Yeah, exactly. The OWN network, that's what really surprised me. Why would you even consider that? Why? Because of ratings. Reality TV is ratings.
So here's a question coming up right now. Actually, no, I'll save this to the end. I think there's a question I could have brought up, but I'll save it to the end. I'll gotta make sure I parking lot it and write it down, because I think it's a very interesting conversation piece. So let me get to the next illusion. Okay. Black men are physically and sexually superior.
A couple of things. First of all, our heroes have always been athletes, and I don't want to minimize the importance of having those athletes. That's awesome that we are acknowledged in that way. But the downside is, the illusion is that somehow we are superior. And whenever a group tries to claim superiority, I don't agree with that because it's trying to say that we're better than, and I don't think that's where we want to go. The point of that chapter is to recognize that the men of color who make it to that level of sports is so minuscule, so small, but yet it perpetuates this idea that we're more superior. But the truth is, black men as a group leads the nation in all health-related illnesses and death. Therefore, there is a paradox that we are showcased as being superior physically, yet the reality is we aren't taking care of ourselves. And so I challenge men to look at that. And from a sexual perspective, there's this perception that we are all sex-driven, testosterone-driven animals that don't know how to keep our thing in our pants. That we're over-sexualized, which is not true. That's something, once again, that's been perpetuated through the media. And there's this idea that it sounds like it's a compliment that black men are all hung to their knees, but it's not. It creates an unrealistic expectation that we're supposed to be these sexual dynamos, when in reality we struggle with sexuality and sex just like the other group.
And I think for black men who have, I guess in this case, drunk the Kool-Aid, it becomes a thing of pressure and anxiety at times because they're believing the hype, and when they don't live up to the hype, allegedly, they feel that something's missing in their character, something's wrong with them.
Sure, and it is that sense of inferiority that can literally drive domestic violence and other things, because they're thinking that they're trying to live up to this expectation. They don't meet that expectation, then they're upset with themselves for not doing it, so they turn that anger toward the person they're with, rather than acknowledging that they're not living up to the expectation.
I think an additional point that can be added onto this, that because of this illusion, it also can lead to mental health issues.
Sure. And actually, I don't, and here's something that I really disagree with. We hear a lot of talk about mental health issues, and I would assert that it's not mental health. I would assert that it's emotional health. Because emotions are energy in motion. They're feeling. And when we talk about mental, we're talking about the brain. When I think about mental illness, I think about things like schizophrenia, which is a real thing. ADHD, these are real mental issues. But I think more importantly for men, we have emotional issues that we need to address. It's not as mental as we think it is. It's more emotional. And when we get to the point of recognizing that and begin healing those emotions, then we'll move past a lot of the challenges in our society, I believe.
Yes, I agree. The emotional is a huge issue in all this. And again, it's when you work out, if you have a trainer, they always emphasize the importance of your core. And if your core is not doing good, that's a whole other story. Here, another illusion you have here, and it's very interesting in regards to the NFL and protest. Black men are not patriotic.
Oh yeah, that's a big one. And, the implication of this whole Colin Kaepernick situation, the implication is that as black men, we don't love this country. I will assert that Colin standing up, or taking a knee in this case, is just the opposite of what the media have you believe. He loves this country so much that he's speaking out against that which is wrong with it to try to make it better. And so in no way was he disrespecting the flag or our military. In essence, he's saying people in America are dying unjustly at the hands of police. How do we fix it? That's the core of his message. And yet it's been turned around to make it appear that he doesn't love this country, that he's ungrateful for living. No, what he is saying is people are dying. Let's fix it. But once again, what did the media do? They flipped it, took away the true message that he was trying to get across, and made it something that it wasn't. And so this whole idea that we as men of color don't love this country is driven by, once again, the media and how it twists the truth And what happens is when you have the President of the United States taking the stand that he took about fire the son of a bitch and so forth and so on, then not only his base, but in the book I say what I call the CWBS. The CWBS is what I call the collective white belief system. And what the CWBS is if you think about it, you hear a lot of people say that we live in a racist country. I personally don't believe that the country is racist. I believe that the country is definitely biased. Why is it biased? It's biased because of the collective white belief system, because white people have always made up the majority of people, and their belief system is such that it's been governed by that belief system. Well, that belief system is breaking down. Why? Because they're no longer going to be the majority. So the CWBS is slowly breaking down. As you look at the demographics of our country, you know, in the next 10, 15 years, white people will actually be a minority. And I think that's a good thing, because diversity works to our advantage when we allow it to. In the past, we weren't able to because they were the majority. But now that's changing. And I talk about that in the book also.
Is there any difference, or what's the relationship between racism and bias? Because you said that you don't believe there's racism, you believe it's bias. People
here's the distinction. When I say, or when someone says racist, the assumption is there are a group of people who are intentionally doing things to try to keep a certain group from accomplishing things. They're intentionally doing it. I don't believe that's how our society works. I don't believe there are people who are intentionally saying they're getting together in a room and says, you know what, we're going to keep black people down. But here's the thing. Although it may not be intentional, the results are still the same. When you have a collective white belief system that has perpetuated this idea that our way is the right way, that's what racism comes from. So my point here is that a biased society is unconscious that it's biased.
Some people may contest you on that. You know that.
Sure, absolutely. Sure. So again, this is just Michael Taylor's perspective, my perception. So when I see, or when I hear people say it's a racist country, for me, racism, first of all, I think it's overused and has lost its meaning because it's overused. But the reality is it exists. I'm not questioning whether or not it exists. But to believe that there is a group of people that are coming together to intentionally hold down another group of people, I don't agree with.
Okay. We will leave it at that for that one. And then finally, the illusion of black men are lazy.
Yeah, and we've all seen the stereotype, you know, the guys hanging out on the corner shooting dice, doing nothing, no direction, no drive, and the illusion being that we are lazy. Well, that just doesn't make any sense when you look at what we started with and where we are now. You see, I'm a child of the 60s. I remember the 60s very, very clearly. I remember in the 60s when you'd watch television, and if you saw a black person on television, it was a big event. I remember my grandmother getting on the phone when Sidney Poitier was on television, calling her friend saying there's a black man on television. It was a big event. Okay? Now, fast forward 50 years or so, which is where we are today. Can you turn on the television and not see a black person on television? No. Why? It's because it was our commitment to equality that opened up the doors to allow us to achieve what we've achieved.
Okay, just going to interrupt you there, but that the commitment was there, but wasn't it also the allowing of the powers that be that gave permission for that to happen?
No, I don't think the powers that be had anything to do with that. Think about this. So the powers that be, and now we're talking about the CWBS, what I call the collective white belief system. when the civil rights movement started, the powers that be said, no, black people, you stay where you are, boom. It wasn't the powers that be that started the civil rights movement.
Right.
It were black people that said, you know what? We're going to protest the powers that be because we want things to be different.
Right.
It was that commitment that opened the door to where we are now.
Agreed, the commitment was part of it, but also when we're talking about illusion and media, it's still the same people generally that look the way they do that are allowing that commitment to become reality.
But see, once again, I go to 100% responsibility for my life, and this is how I see it.
Understood.
In my short lifetime, so let me. I'm going to ask you a really deep question, and this is for your audience. I want you to really think about this. This is going to stretch your mind. And Dr. Val, I'm going to ask you this question: when do you think life began?
That's a very interesting. There's a scientific answer, and then there's a number of different answers to that one.
Yeah, lots of different answers. So let's look at it from a process of evolution. So scientists will tell you that the universe is approximately 15 billion years old. Okay?
Okay.
Approximately 15 billion years old. The Earth, as we understand it, is approximately 5 billion years old. Okay? So this is science. Of course, you'll have the people that say this is fake news, but this is science verifiable.
You had to drop that phrase, eh? Go on. Oh, you live in that country, so I guess you have permission to use it. Go for it.
So think about this. So most people believe that human beings are approximately 200,000 years old. Homo sapiens, okay, from a science, approximately 200,000 years old.
Okay.
Okay? Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So most people would say that life began when the single-celled organisms came out of the water and began the process of evolution.
Right.
That to them is when life began. Now, what if, this is just Michael Taylor's theory, what if life began the instant of creation? 15 billion years ago, something came from nothing. Regardless of what your religious background might be, no distinction, no arguing that there was nothing, and then all of a sudden there was something.
Right.
So the question becomes, did something cause something to come from nothing? Well, if you're religious, then you would say God created, right?
Right.
So something came from nothing. I believe that in that instant, 15 billion years ago, is when life started. Okay?
Yep.
So to me, evolution is the movement to deeper and deeper levels of complexity. This divine intelligence that I believe in set it all in motion. So 15 billion years ago, something happened and this evolutionary process began. All right? You with me?
Yep.
So you move to human beings evolving and getting to a point where now we have technology and the industrial revolution, blah, 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 blah. So let's just drop at 1960. That's when I was born.
Right.
All right? Now, if life is a 15 billion year process that's still moving forward, how long is 50 years in that process?
A drip.
It's not even a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
So, in my lifetime, 50 years, 57 to be exact, I've seen this country go from not allowing black people to vote to voting for a man of color to actually run the country that didn't allow them to vote. So, to me, that's evolution.
Okay.
So, my point is that the challenges that we have, very obvious, But in the span of eternality, it's just a blip. It's just a second, a nanosecond. So from my perspective, this process, this evolutionary process, knows exactly what it's doing. And so the trajectory that we're on, I say, is extremely positive.
Okay.
The trajectory that we're on. If I could extrapolate out the next 50 years, from where we've come from in 50 years, I see a completely different world than what the media says. Because each generation, I believe, has a higher level of consciousness than the previous generation. So if you look at the young people today, the so-called millennials, they have a completely different way of seeing the world. Black or white, regardless of color. Why? Because evolution knows what it's doing. Human beings are still evolving. God ain't finished yet. As a matter of fact, I think God's just getting warmed up. And so when we open our minds and hearts to the possibility that this infinite intelligence that created this amazing universe, and in our short lifetime, just look at what the changes that have happened, to me, that's a miracle. And that's why I'm so optimistic.
Excellent. Well, we got through the 10 illusions. Yay, yay, yay. And I have some follow-up conversation pieces. This book addresses media illusions. I want to find out from you, do you feel, when it comes to women of color and illusions of men of color, what are your comments? Do any of these also apply? Or
every illusion in this book would specifically apply to women of color also. No question about it. It's the same thing. Now, the illusions that we have about each other is the next book I need to write.
Yes. Absolutely.
That's a whole different book that needs to be written, because the challenges that we have are based on illusions. The challenges that we have is, you know, we hear things like, oh, I just can't find a good man, or I can't find a good woman, or, you know, black men are all marrying white women. You know, so there's lots of stuff going on out there that needs to be addressed, and definitely needs to be put into the form of some sort of book or communication, so that we begin to heal our own hearts, especially in our own communities. That's the key.
Do you feel that, where's the bigger challenge? The illusions of black men held by the black community, or the illusions held by the media?
The biggest challenge.
What's the bigger challenge? Is the media illusion, or these illusions that may be held within the black community about black men?
Well, I think if we look at the 10 illusions in this book, what it will do is, if you're willing to look at them, it will destroy all the other external things that the media will throw at you. Because there's a beautiful saying that says, if you don't go within, you will always go without. And so, if you don't go within and address these illusions, then you will rationalize in your head, you will make and convince yourself that you can't do something, but it's really a conversation that's going on in here. If you aren't conscious of it, if you aren't aware that you're trapped in those illusions, they will sabotage your life. See, because here's a perfect example. It's easy for us to get into a debate and an argument about racism. That's an easy conversation to have. But it's still just opinions. Opinions won't do anything for you. Knowledge will. When we give ourselves knowledge that we can apply to our own lives, that's what changes us. So we must begin investing in knowledge, not opinions. And that's what this work is about. It's about giving you knowledge to change your mind, to change your life. And as a matter of fact, in the book I talk about, one of the great joys of life is going to a black barbershop and getting into debates.
Okay.
There is something so fulfilling. I love going to barbershops and having conversations and debates. But if you think about it, what are we arguing about or talking about in these barbershops? We're just arguing about our opinions Opinions won't put money in the bank. Opinions won't transform your life, but knowledge will. So my question is, how many of us are willing to invest in the knowledge we need to live extraordinary lives? In order to do that, you've got to make the investment in yourself. And that's why reading books, going to these summits, learning about yourself are the keys to your success, not just your opinion of what you see, how you see the world.
As a parent yourself, what are your suggestions for parents of young black men in regards to what can they do to get these illusions out of the heads of their younger black sons?
Okay, so here's, you ever read Khalil Gibran?
Yeah.
Okay. He said this is so very powerful. Let me see if I remember. He said, your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life, longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you can never visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not backwards, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which, you are the bows from which let's see if I remember this, it's been a while. He said, you are the bows from which the arrows are sent forth.
Right.
The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might so that the arrows may go swift and far. So let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness. For though he loves the arrow that flies, so too also he loves the bow that is stable. So the key is we are the bows and our children are the arrows. Unfortunately, what happens, I think, a lot of times as parents, we see our kids as belongings. Our kids are our belongings. But the truth is that I believe, first and foremost, we have to be willing as parents to look at our own stuff. That's the hardest thing to do. Look at our own stuff if we want to be great parents. Because if I have some unresolved emotional stuff, it's going to be difficult for me to be a great parent. And so for me, the one thing that I never did was I never taught my kids or tried to convince my kids to think like I do. I always challenged my kids to think for themselves. I would share with them what I believed, what I thought, and then I would ask them, what do you think? And I gave them the space to think for themselves, to make mistakes. The most important thing that we can do as parents is to love our kids to be who they are, not shape them into who we think they should be. If we don't do our own inner work, that's not possible. See, I had to learn to be a good parent. I didn't have my dad, who was never in the picture, I didn't have that role model. So what did I do? I learned how to be a great parent. I read books. I went to seminars. I learned from people who were great parents. That's how I became a great parent. But I was willing to do my own work so that I can understand what would keep me from being a great parent. So the key is to first and foremost do your own work, know who you are, and love and accept your children for who they are, not who you think they should be.
Excellent. Well, as we come to the close of this epic conversation, I want to give you a three-part conversation piece in regards to what do these groups need to do to get these illusions, as we say where I come from, dash these illusions. So the first area or first group, what do you want the media to do? And actually I'm going to break it down. What do you want the white media to do, and what do you want the black media to do in regards to eliminating illusions of black men?
Well, first of all, we got to understand that we have absolutely no control over the media. So I personally don't point to the media to do anything. What I do is inject into the media what my message is. So I do that by going on shows like this, having a conversation with you. I do that by starting my own television show. I do that by starting my own radio show, my own podcast, creating my own publishing company. I refuse to rely on the media to do anything because the media, once again, is biased. And it's going to always look for what is wrong. So I completely disconnect from and don't rely on the media to do anything.
Okay. So would you also encourage black men, black women, turn off the media and or filter the media? Those who do go into the media, filter it, get things from as many different sources so they can make more evaluated and more complete decisions about judgments?
Yeah, but here's the thing. It's not my job to tell people what they should or shouldn't do. So I'll share what I do.
Okay.
First and foremost, I disconnect from the media.
Okay.
Now, when I say disconnect from the media, that doesn't mean I can't watch the news. But first of all, what I don't do is, number one, I never start my day paying attention to the media. I never end my day listening to the media. What I will do is I will read online to catch up with what's going on in the world, gain some information, say, okay, this, I agree with this. I try to stay informed.
Right.
But most importantly, here's what I know. All of the water in the ocean cannot sink a ship unless it gets inside the ship.
Absolutely.
All the negativity of the world cannot sink you unless you allow the negativity to get inside of you.
Yep.
Don't let the negativity get inside of you.
Yeah, that's when a boat sinks.
Yeah, that's the key. So that's my approach to the media. I don't let it get in me.
And then in regards to the black environment, the black culture, what would you want them or suggest to them in regards to dealing with these illusions?
Well, I think we should have a conversation about them. I think people should get this book and come to this summit and challenge themselves to look at these illusions and see if they're trapped in any of them. Because once again, as human beings, we get so inundated with negativity and these illusions that we're completely unconscious. We don't even recognize that we're trapped by them. We get on what I call the roller coaster of life. You see, a roller coaster could be fun and exciting and so forth and so on, but it doesn't go anywhere. It just goes up and down, round and round, but it's in the same spot. And so people get trapped on that roller coaster and they stay in that same spot, which becomes the comfort zone. So what you have to be willing to do is get off the roller coaster, get uncomfortable, and stretch yourself, stretch your mind, expose yourself to new ideas. Have a conversation with someone who doesn't think like you. Be willing to be open to something different than what you already know. That's the only way you'll grow. And so what I'm hoping is that people will take this conversation and go, you know what? Especially in colleges, I'd love to see the kids in college say, hey, we're going to have this seminar. I want you to watch this thing, these 10 illusions about black men. And then have the teachers and the students talk about, oh, yeah, I relate to that. Oh, well, I never thought about that. White people, their eyes get big and they go, oh, yeah, I never thought of it that way. So it's really about exposing people to different ways of seeing things. And what this book is going to do is going to open people's eyes, especially white people, to go, oh, I never thought about that. Because they're unconscious. And what this does is help bring into consciousness what we're talking about.
You mentioned white people. Do you have a message for them when it comes to these illusions for black men? Do you have a specific message for them?
In the book, I actually talk about a message to the CWBS. And I said, you know what? I just want to ask you a question. And I'm speaking collectively. And I said, when your children die, it breaks our hearts and we mourn. My question to you is, when our young men are dying, do you mourn? Do you feel our pain? Can you empathize with the pain that we feel when we see our young people being needlessly killed in the streets? Can you feel that pain? My question to you is, Do you see this person who has now gone as just a thug who was justifiably killed by police? Or do you recognize that it's a human being that lost his life unnecessarily? Can you empathize and feel what we're feeling? Well, I'm not asking you to feel guilty. I'm asking you for compassion. Because if you can't feel compassion for our pain, how can you really connect with us? And that's all we really ask for, is compassion and understanding. So my challenge to people who aren't Black is to open their minds for understanding, because understanding breeds compassion. And that's all I'm asking. Understand, see our point of view so that you can have some compassion for us, the same way we do for you.
And finally, do you have a message for Black men out there when it comes to illusions that are put on or addressed to them?
Well, the message is really simple, and I said it at the very beginning. If you're watching this video right now, this interview, I am absolutely certain that you have everything you need right now to live an extraordinary life. I'm living proof of it. I know what's possible. So if you're struggling with any aspect of your life, there's a good chance that you're struggling because you're trapped in one of these illusions. So if you want something different in your life, you have to be willing to do something different with your life. And so something different could be picking up this book. Something different could be engaging in this summit and learning from some men who are going to give you some tools to help you wake up from these illusions. Because if you truly want to change your life, only you can do it. I can't do that for you. But what I can do is provide you with some tools. And that's what these books are. That's what this summit is. They are tools of awareness that can help you transform your life. And recognize that, once again, you already have everything you need right now to overcome any adversity, any challenge, any difficulty in your life. But it all begins here and here. And I want to help you get there. That's why I write.
There he is, Coach Michael Taylor, bringing it on and making it happen. And another epic conversation. And do pick up the book Shattering Black Male Stereotypes, Eradicating the 10 Most Destructive Media Generated Illusions About Black Men. Now, before we let you go, a few things. When is this book available? Is this book available?
Technically, the book is available. It's still being uploaded into some of the online bookstores. If you're ready to buy a copy, if you go to ShatteringBlackMaleStereotypes.com, you can actually order a copy from my website today. If you go to Amazon and some of these other online programs, they may not be available just yet, but it is being uploaded into their system. And again, the key is just to go to the website, ShatteringBlackMaleStereotypes.com. You can access the summit, you can access the book, and you can find out more about me there.
Any other ways that people can contact you, or is that the best place to go?
Well, the best place to go is actually CoachMichaelTaylor.com. That's my primary website, CoachMichaelTaylor.com.
Excellent. Well, folks, you got it all, and especially Black men and those who love them. Do you want to make a change? This may be the way you can start making a change in a positive direction. We will certainly have all the contact information for Michael and all the projects that he's been working on and will be working on. Actually, what's next? Is there going to be a part 2? you had 7 more that you left off, you know.
Yeah, but actually, the next project I'm working on is a book titled The New Face of Entrepreneurship.
Okay. All right.
Because I believe that the true game changers, the world changers are entrepreneurs. And so what if entrepreneurship was actually a spiritual practice? And that's what I'll be talking about in the new book.
Excellent. It is Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show. Also, I am a empowerment coach, president and CEO of Express Your Vibe Coaching Communications. If you want to catch replays of conversations like this on YouTube, go to YouTube, put in the space, DR period space, VIBE space, SHOW, and you'll see over 350 replays of epic conversations. If you want to catch replays of my audio epic conversations, you can go to my website, thedrvibeshow.com. You can also go to Apple Podcasts, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Google Play Music Store, and also Stitcher Radio. You can catch selected audio replays at thegoodmenproject.com, also at wjmsradio.com. Do note that I am a brand ambassador for the only online magazine that features African Americans in food, wine, and travel. That website address is cuisinenoirmag.com. That's for Cuisine Noir Magazine. As I mentioned, I'm a certified empowerment coach. If you'd like a complimentary 30-minute session, you can contact me at Twitter at drvibeshow. Also, you can email me dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com, or you can go to the contact page on my website. And one other thing, if you are looking to have your business get promotion to the media so you can enhance your business, certainly reach out to me. I do offer a service called Getting Media Coverage. Finally, 3 last things. Well, I have to remember, I just forgot one of them. Okay, there we go. Life is a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Also, sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. And finally, thank you so much for watching. God bless. Peace be well. Keep the faith, and look forward to more epic conversations on the Dr. Vibe Show with all your support. Good night, and God